Shalom, Sister Kate here, For God Live channel. It's not a response, but it is a video about a particular person who has come to my channel and has done video responses to some of my videos, and it's really hard to describe him because there's a lot going on there. And I'm making this video because I'm actually kind of concerned about people who think this man is an example to be followed. First of all, he's very hateful. Without even knowing who I am, without even trying to have a conversation that made any sense, he just started name calling and doing what other MGTOW do, which is hasty generalization, which is taking their little instance of whatever happened to them. And sometimes with you all, you got to admit it doesn't happen to you. You're in this because you're interested, but you have not had a personal experience like some of these men have. And so the hasty generalization is a logical fallacy. I've talked about it a couple of times. There is actually logic. It's a class that you can take. And hasty generalization is where you say, because one dog bites people, all dogs are going to bite people. That is not logical. Well, neither is saying because I got divorced, everybody's getting divorced. And quoting statistics that say 80% of the people who instigated divorce are women, whatever. When you look at marriage statistics for the United States and worldwide, almost everyone who's 18 to 20 is married, and everyone else after that is, almost all of them are married until you hit the age where people start dying, and then widows start growing as a statistic to like 50-50 by the time you're like 90. Just go look at the stat, put in UN marriage stat. They've got a whole table of it. So divorce across all ages worldwide is still like 10, 20, whatever percent. So the sky is falling thought process, because a few people had an experience, does not mean everybody has that same experience. And to keep propagating that idea is propagating a logical fallacy. So that's number one. And he's in there. He and his followers just throw me in with every other woman on the planet, and it's not logical. So then the second thing is, he's also delusional. I don't know where he thinks he's going, but he's declaring himself a sovereign citizen, which is a kind of delusion in and of itself. Now, I get it. Everybody wants to think that they're a free human on the planet, and you are. You're a child of God here. But you are born into the world as it is, not the world as you want it to be. And so you have to understand you're in that world and how that world works in order for you to successfully navigate that world. And if you think I'm just going to walk through it and do my own thing, whatever I want, you're going to be locked up eventually, because when you decide you want to steal or whatever, you're going to get arrested for it, because there's a system in place and has been for years and years and years. And so the way to be successful in that system is not to declare you're outside of it and then do your own thing. It's to declare you are, not even to declare, to understand how it works and then to get in it and change it. Now, I don't like politicians, and you're going to say to me, but Sister Kate, you're living outside of that system. We have chosen a system to live in. It's a biblical system, and we've come to that over our course of life. But while we were in the world, we were in that system, and we were navigating it successfully on our own terms. And that's my advice, is to be your own little unit within the bigger unit, and you two decide for yourselves how you're going to navigate the bigger unit. It's when people just don't understand that system, or act like they're going to do stuff without even understanding consequences, that you cannot successfully navigate it. So he has stated in his own words that he is going to go to war with Germany. And I'm sure he doesn't mean just he himself as a person. He's not dumb. But that's delusional. He doesn't understand the concept of a military or a government or how warfare works, or unless he, as one person like Stalin or Pol Pot, somehow overthrows his entire country and then gets his military and then declares war on Germany's military, which, again, with the United Nations and the world as it is, I don't think it's possible. Look at Kim Jong-un in Korea. He's got all that at his fingertips, and yet he has now decided he's going to play nice with everybody else instead of going to war. So it is a delusion. Now, he makes some good points. I can't disagree with every point he makes in his videos, because some of them have merit. But all of that merit will be overlooked, and this is a reality. This is not idealism. This is not going to change. When you do a lot of good, it can be overcome by all the negative. And when you're a hater, it's just not going to work for you. That's not what God wants, and he's not going to allow that to work. Even if you got control like Stalin did, eventually that comes to an end, and you are not revered. You are despised. So, I don't even think I'm going to use his name, just because I don't want people going to his channel. I will warn people, because you know who he is. If you know this person, start looking at what he's actually saying, instead of just jumping in on the bandwagon with all the little talking points you have in your belief system. Look at what he says, and it's not real. It is delusional. And so you need to avoid that guy if you want to have any sort of a normal life. I've already explained the logical fallacy going on within that movement. You cannot take one instance and blow it up. Something else I've noticed in the movement is, and it's not all you guys, so don't think I'm talking about all of you. I'm talking about some of the guys who have commented on my videos. They will not talk about their particular instance. They will not give their particular testimony of what went wrong in their life. And like I said, I think there's a good number of them, just by the way they talk, who've never been married. And the ones who have been divorced, it is a failure, and they don't want to admit a failure, because a failure is a weakness. Only if you don't learn from your failure and then go back and be successful. See, one failure does not a lifetime make. All of us have failed multiple times. It's when you get back up from the failure and you overcome it. Meaning, in this case, in my opinion, and again, you've lived it, so this is my opinion. I am not a teacher. I am not an expert. I am someone looking from an objective point of view, because obviously I'm not MGTOW, and showing you what I'm seeing in your movement. So you can use me like a mirror. It's not personal. What I am seeing is men are looking to other men with failed marriages as an example on how to live their lives. And that makes no sense to me. If I had a horse and I wanted to train it, I would go to someone whose horses look like they have been trained properly. I would not go to the guy who trains the horse and still can't get it to do anything he wants. So if you're a person who's had a failed marriage and you're not sure how a real marriage works, you don't go to another guy whose marriage failed. You go to someone who's successfully still in his marriage and ask him how that worked. How did he pick his wife? What were her characteristics? What did they do in their relationship to keep that relationship strong? That's what makes sense to me. So I would stay away from this particular person, because he's delusional and because he's trying to get some kind of power base and enact some kind of something of his own will, including war on Germany, which is just kind of loony, okay? That's what this video is about. And the hasty generalizations, which I've said to many of you, and the fact that you're following a model of failure and you're compounding it. Follow a model of success, and then you will have success. That's my advice, okay? That's advice. That is not, someone who is a doctorate in psychology or anything like that. I am a person who is living a successful life and trying to give tips on how that happened. All right, bless you, shalom. The other point I wanted to make, and I kind of lost my train of thought out there, went down another rabbit hole, is the scapegoating. Scapegoating is never good. Scapegoating takes you away from what's happening in your life and your problems, and you're putting that onto somebody else. And often it's someone not even related to you in a personal way. It's not a good thing. It's not taking responsibility for your own life. And it's kind of worrisome when it's done over and over again, and it's done as just a knee-jerk reaction to anything. Think about that. Take control in your own life. Quit blaming other people for what happened to you. And if you have a chip on your shoulder about something, you need to go to the person who made that chip, not a representative and not a scapegoat for that person. Go to that person. And if you can't stand to be in the presence of that person, like I said, use a stand-in object, not another human. There's no reason to involve another human in your little imbroglios. I don't involve you in mine, so there's no reason to do that. You can use a couch or a fridge or an inanimate object, and you can yell and talk and scream and whatever with that, but you need to put things behind you. You need to forgive yourself, because nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, big ones and small ones. Forgive yourself for not being perfect. Forgive the other person for not being perfect, and understand you need to love yourself before you can love other people. And that's God's way. All right, shalom. The points I wanted to make about this individual person, but also the movement in general, is scapegoating. Some of you, again, not all of you, like to just take your instance, and instead of confronting the person who wronged you and was personally involved with you, you want to take your anger and your disappointment and your pain and your hurt, and you want to scapegoat it onto somebody else. And so you blame all women and say all women are like that, instead of facing the reality and the truth of what happened in your particular instance. And that's really dangerous. Scapegoating is a way to kind of make an enemy out of people and not think of them as a human being. It's what the Japanese did with other people during World War II. So it's not good. It's definitely not good, and you guys need to quit doing that in order for the general public to be able to relate to you at all. And maybe you don't care. The other thing is the name calling. If you're made in the image of God, then you should be acting like you're made in the image of God, and not acting like a little 10 or 11 or 12-year-old person who's giggling with their friends behind people's backs and saying, look at their hair, and blah, 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 whatever, and name calling. It's not a mature behavior. I don't know a single male adult, personally, who name calls like that. It's just not dignified. And as you are made in the image of God, you should have some dignity. You should have some gravitas. Some of you allude to, and I wholeheartedly agree, men teaching other men how to control the strength of their emotions and their feelings, and to use their logical mind, their reasoning mind, to be able to navigate in the world. And that's another thing I was talking about with logical fallacy. Do not jump on that thing and keep screaming it, because to everyone else who understands logic, you are standing out as someone making a huge mistake. You want to be in the right. And so if you really want to be taken seriously by anybody, you need to keep these things in mind. Again, I am I said objective. I guess I'm probably not objective, but I am someone who is not of your movement in any way. I'm from a completely different movement, looking at your movement and telling you the things I'm seeing and giving you advice on how you can be seen as other than you are now. Because when I told you this, when I mention MGTOW to other people who have seen it, they just say those guys are crazy. They're whiners, and you guys know it. You've talked about those things yourselves. So stop doing those things. Think about being in the image of God and what God wants from you and what He intends for you. It's a way better place. All right. And stay away from delusional people. Just because they have a channel doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. All right. Shalom.